So, okay, now we're going to be navigating the TV landscape in Canada, and to help us do that, we have Justin Evans from Samsung Ads. So please give Justin a very warm welcome.
Oh, there I am. So I guess I'm on. Hi, folks. I'm Justin Evans. I'm the head of Innovation and Insights at Samsung Ads. And we're going to spend a few minutes together talking about how the TV landscape has changed. And streaming has become such an important part of how consumers take in television that now we believe at Samsung Ads that it can truly be said that television starts with streaming. Oh, you know what? I forgot the clicker. Hold on. That's important. So I'm going to break this into three parts. First, we're going to talk about the consumer and the technology, which is where it all begins. Then for the brands and the agencies in the room, what do you do about the changes in TV consumption? And finally, for those of you who are not as deeply entrenched in CTV advertising, we'll talk a little bit about the CTV advertising opportunities that are unique to that medium. So let's get started. Let's get started. Is this a gag? Let's get started. Didn't work. The clicker's not working. Thanks, man. Let's get started. So on the consumer side, according to MTM, in a Canadian survey at the end of 2023, 3/4 of TV households were connected to the internet. You know why this is significant, but I'll underscore it. It's significant because smart TVs run on the internet, and broadband is enabling cord cutting, which means that broadband is in many cases substituting as a TV source for what used to be cable as a TV source. And of course, streaming is what runs on the internet. And this has had an impact. This has had an impact on the way we are watching television. According to Samsung data on our smart TVs in Canada, 66% of all the viewing time is being spent in a streaming format. This is obviously now the majority. And it's a big deal, and it also, in contrast, means it's growing and it's dominating compared to linear. On the linear side of things, 90% of all the linear minutes that are being watched by a small group, 25% of the Samsung TVs. That means we've got a kind of lopsided situation going on in the Canadian TV audience. And we think it's therefore time for the brands and the agencies to start focusing on a group we call default streamers. Streamers by default. This is the normal way you watch television. Another way to watch television is different for you. It's odd. This is the way you start your television experience. We define this group as people who spend 55% or more of their time in a streaming environment on the television. But the 55%, by the way, why 55%? I don't know, 50% means you like linear and streaming the same. 51% sort of feels like splitting hairs. 55%, it's a robust margin of preference. But the 55% is a minimum threshold. When you look at these default streamers and you look at how they spend their time overall, 95% of their time is spent watching streaming television and only 5% watching linear television. And for those of you in the room who are responsible for TV media budgets, this is maybe sending a chill down your spine, because now you're realizing that when you do a linear ad campaign, this group only has a 5% chance of seeing it, which could be a problem. Now, it wouldn't be a big problem if the default streamers were some little group, a fringe audience that you didn't need to worry about. But they're actually huge, at least on the Samsung platform. They're nearly 2/3 of the TV viewing audience. Now, if the TV viewing audience that watches the streaming by default is 2/3, you would think, I don't know, maybe in a rational world, if Samsung was perfectly representative, 2/3 is what you would spend in your CTV budget in order to reach these folks. But actually, it's really not the case. On our best estimates, the average advertiser's budget in Canada is 15% allocated to CTV. So we did an analysis. We looked at 10 campaigns from our clients that ran in Canada. On the linear side, Samsung has ACR data, or automatic content recognition data, which is technology that allows us to read an ad on the television and associate it with the reach for that campaign. We did an analysis, we took our televisions, we took these 10 campaigns, we projected them to the national average using MTM, and I'm gonna show you the results right here, but the headline is, if you spend 40% of your TV budget on CTV, you will reach 25% more people without spending an additional dollar. So let's go into the details. So we took these 10 campaigns and we generated a scenario of a campaign, a linear-only campaign of 300 GRPs. And according to our analysis, you really can't reach 50% or more of the Canadian audience with a 300 GRP linear campaign. You can reach 41.6% of the Canadian TV audience, but it's super overweight towards the linear audience. Oh, I have a beamer. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. It's overweighted to the linear-centric audience, where you reach 68% of them, but your reach to the streaming-centric audience is anemic. It's 13%. And one question you might be asking then is, well, I'll spend more money, and that will help me reach the streaming-centric audience. But in fact, linear TV, like, literally cannot do this. If you take, by the way, the legends are the most important part of these slides, which shows you what my skills are as a PowerPoint person. Let's focus on the legend. So if you take a 100 GRP campaign, you'll reach 32% of the Canadian audience. Our old friend, the 300 GRP campaign, reaches 41.6. Even if you dial it up to 500 GRPs, you're only going to reach 46% of the audience. If I go over here and do this, it'll be better. But you see the lopsidedness is still happening. You're still overweighting to the linear-centric audience, and you're severely underweighting the streaming-centric audience. And we think there's a simple solution. Just reallocate. If you shift your budget from linear TV to CTV, you'll increase the total campaign reach, and the dynamics will be much more favorable. So here's our friend, the 300 GRP campaign. By the way, the legends are very important, and I screwed up the legend in the PowerPoint. So the dark bar here is a 100% linear campaign. The light blue is a 15% CTV campaign, what we think is the average. And then the missing part of the legend is that the aqua is what it looks like at 40% CTV. So with a 40% CTV campaign, you can finally break the 50% barrier. And yes, you're going to give up a little bit in your reach to the linear-centric audience, but you're going to more than triple your reach to the streaming-centric audience, putting things more in balance. And here's back to my headline: you've increased your reach by 25%, and you haven't spent another dollar. All right, so if this is piquing the interest that maybe CTV is a good way to spend money, we'll pivot now to the third topic, which is, okay, then let's talk about CTV advertising opportunities. Back 5 years ago, when I started at Samsung Ads, the subscription streaming business was sort of how we interacted with streaming. You paid a big fat check for the streaming every month. You got no ads. It was fabulous. But then, as people started to write more checks to more streaming services, it got a little bit much, and we started adding ad tiers across the board. Now, 84% of Samsung households are consuming some form of ad-supported streaming. So that tells us it's a robust environment to advertise in CTV. And there's one part of the medium that's new that I'm actually really fascinated with that's totally unique to the CTV experience, and that is fast. I'm sure everyone here has heard the word fast, yeah? Just give me a quick, okay, not so much, or just not hand raisers. FAST stands for free, ad-supported streaming television. So the experience is you take your Samsung TV out of the box, you plug it into the internet, and suddenly there are 170 channels to watch, and they're all free. And the experience is a lot like traditional linear. You have a guide, you can kind of click into the channels, but it's really taking off in a lot of ways because of the cord cutting. People are not plugged into the cable box as much. People don't like paying for multiple subscription services. And what Nielsen says is the 11 minutes per time you sit down in front of the television that you're deciding what to watch on demand, all that stress is taken away. It's just back to channels that are flowing and you can just join them at will. And the medium is taking off. We did a survey in Canada and asked people, how long have you been engaged with our FAST service, or any FAST service, including Pluto and others? 60% said, I just started watching it in the last 7 months. And 33% said, I've just started watching it in the last month, which is an indicator that this is a robust medium that's being embraced by the audiences. And I think it's going to continue because we're also seeing that the content producers are really coming into this medium. CBC is launching 12 channels focusing on news, headlines, weather. Bell Media announced they're doing a lot of new fast channels in lifestyle, in comedy, and there's this show called Corner Gas. Is that a show y'all watch? It's like, I didn't watch any shows, but it looks like sort of like the comfort food of like Canadian television. So that's its own dedicated channel. And so when you think about FAST from the point of view of the publisher, it's a way for them to monetize and create products with their current library of content. You can carve out local news. You can carve out weather. You can create a whole channel based on Corner Gas, and it's a way for them to monetize content. And I think about it from their point of view almost like a combination of syndication, cable, and the internet, websites. Because the bandwidth is not unlimited, but there's a lot of it. And you can keep adding channels. And I think we're going to see a lot of creativity as producers and broadcasters find ways to make FAST an exciting medium to watch. So to turn back from the content to the advertising opportunity, excuse me one sec. There's a lot about CTV that's similar to traditional television. 66% of, 2/3 of the audience being default streamers. That's a huge audience. We're really creating scaled reach now, which is the reason we like television to begin with. Second of all, with all the content that's both niche, appealing to a certain audience, and you have your broad media and entertainment, general entertainment channels, there's valuable context for virtually any brand, any context association. But then you bridge over from what's characteristic of traditional television into the fact that CTV is a medium that's come of age in digital times, which means the advertising is very much like digital in the sense that it can all be targeted, it's all addressable, and you can haul back ad exposure data that allows you to understand what the outcomes are of the campaign. What was the level of engagement? What was the result of the campaign? So altogether, it becomes a really powerful combination for where we are right now. So to recap what we talked about today, it all starts with the consumer. 2/3 of Samsung households are default streamers. Even though we're not going to recommend putting 2/3 of the TV budget into CTV, we are recommending a 40% TV allocation to CTV, away from the 15% where you likely are now, because it's going to give you a 25% boost in your reach at a national level. It's going to rebalance your campaign, and you're not going to spend an extra dollar. And then the advertising opportunity is a combination of traditional television with scaled reach and relevant content, and a digital approach to advertising that's fully addressable and targetable and has the ability to measure outcomes. So in their absence, by the way, I want to thank the Samsung Ads Insights team who drafted this material. And you can take a little bit of them with you when you leave, because they prepared Fast Facts Canada, which takes the Samsung Smart TV ecosystem and has generated a lot of results, a lot of insights that are wide-ranging and very rich. So I do recommend you take this back to your teams at the office. And thank you very much.